Action.
Shalom and Baruch haba. Welcome to our Tanya study, our advanced study here at Congregation Mashiach Yisrael. My name is Scott Siskin. I'm joining us here on Motzai Shabbat, just after Shabbat, and we are going to be studying chapter 9 of Tanya. Mi yiftach otanu b'tafila uvracha. Who would like to open us with prayer and a blessing?
I gave Bob the heads up on that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Do you want to pray?
Well, Bob, you can pray if you want to pray.
Vino Malkino, our Father, our King, we thank you for your Shabbat. We thank you for this time together now. As we study from the Tanya, from about these truths, we ask that you would enlighten us and you would guide us and teach us, give us your kokma, bina, da'at, your wisdom, your understanding, your knowledge, that we might understand you better, that we might understand ourselves better and this world, and Lord, the interaction and relationship that we have with you and it, and all together. And Lord, that you would be glorified in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen.
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 So tonight we're starting a new section of Tanya. It's very exciting. The previous section of Tanya, how did we start Tanya? I know we've had a little pause for a week or two here, so let's just go ahead and kick our feet off the ground. And where did we begin Tanya? We began, if you remember, with a very special, important, fundamental verse of the Torah. What was that verse that I asked you?
Deuteronomy 30:14.
Deuteronomy 30:14. What's it say?
This word, God is speaking of his Torah, is exceedingly near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to do.
Ki kara ve'elecha hadover ma'od b'fivcha u'lavavcha la'asoto. This thing, this word, which word? Torah, mitzvot. Very near to you. It's not in the heavens, it's not across the sea. It's so near to you, it's in your mouth, it's in your heart, in order that you should be able to do it. So in order to fully explain this verse, the Alter Rebbe of blessed memory is giving us 53 chapters of Tanya to explain to us in depth, without any other, and as fully as we possibly can, the meaning of this verse, right? Because it says in your mouth so that you could speak, in your hands that you should do, right, la soto, but it doesn't say in b'machshavcha, right, in your thoughts, it says
In your heart.
b'lavavcha, right? This very funny, in your heart. And the thing is, for humans, for us, it's contrary to our experience, right? For us, we love, 7-layer cake? Mm-hmm. We love a good time, right? A nice piece of steak and some potatoes and a good bottle of wine, right? We love right? We love things that we love, right? And we're afraid of things that we're afraid of. We're afraid of, I don't know, earthquakes and God forbid, and maybe the IRS, right? Spiders, okay, sure. You know, so we're afraid, and we love natural things that we can see, right? How can we really have our actual revealed love of God in our hearts when God is so invisible and so abstract, right? So to explain this, the Alter Rebbe began by saying, within each of us are two souls, and he gave us the structure. Section 1 was called spiritual composition. What are you made of? What's the world made of? And it says, using the various proofs that we brought, all of creation got one utterance to create it. Our essence, our entity, and the composite entity that we are, received 2 of the 10 divine utterances. God said, let us make man. That was our body, the animal soul. God said, we're going to breathe the breath of life into his nostrils. This is the godly soul. Mm-hmm. We discussed that the animal soul originates from where? From this substance called klipat noga, right? This translucent husk of the world. This dust of the earth, if you will, right? Everyday stuff. It could be good, could be bad. It depends on what you do with it. Where did we say the godly soul was from?
The breath of God.
From God himself, right? And this is the imagery the Bible uses as breath, like CPR, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. It exhausts you, right? It comes from your kishkas, from your essence. Mm-hmm. So the godly soul, the nefesh elokit, right, is a literal piece and parcel of God himself, right? Chelek Elokam Mamish, says the Alter Rebbe. Literally a piece of God living within you. So we have the godly soul, we have the animal soul, and that's about as far as we got. We talked about the makeup of each of these souls. It's made up of 10 soul powers. Chochma, Bina, Da'at, Chesed, Gevur, Teferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Right? All of these things, all of these prisms through which the soul can express itself. And these 10 soul powers, they get expressed through 3 garments. What are the 3 garments? These are the things that we can easily control.
Speech and deed.
Thought, speech, and deed, right? Machshava, thought, dibur, speech, and maaser, action. So, how does that all pan out? Now that we know what everything's made of, what does it do? What does it do? This begins our next section in chapter 9 through, what does that say up there? Chapter 12, I guess. We're going to be talking about the war between the worlds. I'm sorry. The war between the souls, right? The war between the souls battling over this small city. What's the small city? It's our body. So without any further ado, let's jump right in here to chapter 9. If you guys don't mind, I think I'll read to start us off here. Baruch Hashem. So, the Alter Rebbe begins chapter 9. The abode of the animal soul, the nefesh abamit, derived from the klipat noga in every Jew. And as we explained at the end of chapter 1, we also were talking about righteous Gentiles, right? Not idolaters, righteous Gentiles, part of the olive tree. The abode of the animal soul is in the heart, in the left ventricle specifically of the heart, the part that's filled with the most blood, says the Alter Rebbe. You guys remember your bio classes? What does a heart look like? It goes like this, right? No. It's about the size of your fist, right? It's got 2 atriums on top, 2 ventricles on the bottom. The atriums take in the blood from various parts of the body and they squeeze it to the ventricles. The ventricles, there's a big muscular part and they squeeze the blood very hard, and that circulates the blood throughout our body. So we know that the left ventricle is the part that supplies the blood to the body, right? That's the aorta, that it goes down here, and it goes where? First to the stomach, and then to the kishkas, I guess you could say, to the reproductive organs, to the limbs, right? The right ventricle, when it pumps the blood, do you remember where it goes? It doesn't go to the body. Where does it go?
Goes to the brain.
Doesn't go to the brain.
Goes where?
The right ventricle?
Right ventricle. Goes to the lungs, right? Place where that breath of life.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Right. So then after the blood gets to the lungs, it comes back to the, left atrium, and then goes to the left ventricle so that it could go to the rest of the body. So the left ventricle is the biggest part of your heart. It carries the most blood, and therefore it is the seat, the headquarters of the animal soul. Kosher so far?
Coach.
How do we know? It is written, for the blood is the nefesh. The nefesh is the blood is the nefesh, right? And this is brought down where? Deuteronomy 12:23. At the end of chapter 1, nefesh means life and also desire. Genesis 23, verse 8. So we've been told in several different places throughout the Bible that the blood is something that we shouldn't be eating, right? Because the blood is associated very closely with the concept of the soul, specifically the nefesh, the lowest bit of the soul, or spiritual energy, if we will. So, which is the part of the body that carries the most blood? This is going to be the part that has the most of this lowest soul. Just the heart. Which part of the heart? The left ventricle. Hence, all the lusts and boasting and anger and similar passions are in the heart. Hot-blooded, right? Passion-centered. And from the heart, they spread throughout the entire body. Again, if you remember the path of the aorta goes to the stomach first, and then to the reproductive organs, right? And the limbs, ultimately. And the stomach and the bones, the limbs, right? They make more blood. You see the animal Adamic nature here, if you will? Okay. Also, it says, if you're interested in a deeper study of the book of Jonah, it says that Jonah is a story of our soul. Comes into the body, we get this message, we get this divine mission. What's the first thing that the soul does? It runs off. Where does it go? Tarsus, right? That's Aramaic, they say, for 2 pleasures. 2 pleasures. What are the 2 pleasures of the animal soul? Food and sex. Where does the blood go from the left ventricle first? Stomach and the reproductive organs, right? So we can literally, like Job said, study ourselves and see God and his plan. Baruch Hashem. Let's see here. Okay, so from the heart they spread out to the whole body, rising also to the brain that's in the head. Of all the organs of your body, the brain uses a third of the body's blood, right? Lots of action in the brain, lots of energy getting sent to the brain.
Third.
A third is what I heard. Rising also to the brain and the head, so as to think and meditate about them, these things. What is these things? Lusts, boasting, anger, similar passions. Rising to the brain and the head to think about and meditate about these things, and then becoming cunning in them, just as the blood has its source in the heart, and from the heart it circulates into every limb, rising also to the brain and the head. So here's what we've covered so far. The animal soul, made from Klipat Noga, has its resting place, its headquarters, its main dwelling in the heart, and it powers the whole body that way. And this is what we talked about last chapters, about what the animal soul is. It's the part of your soul that energizes your body, right? It's the part of your makeup that cares about how much food you're getting, how much pleasure you have, how much your ego is being stroked, and so on and so forth, right? So in order to accomplish that, it's going to use every limb, it's going to use every faculty and facet, including the intelligence of the brain even, as a tool to be able to harness these energies to acquire whatever it is that it's trying to acquire. Kosh? Kosh. What about the divine soul? The nefesh elokit. The abode of the divine soul is in the brain, is in the head. And from there it extends to all the limbs. Also in the heart, in the right ventricle where there is no blood. As it's written, the heart of the wise man is on his right. So, the brain touches every different part of the body, even your toenails, right? It stimulates them, telling them when to grow, when not to grow. The nerves touch the blood vessels and tell them to contract or expand, sending blood to a certain place or not another place. The main nerve that goes from your brain to your heart, for any of you bio nuts out there, is called the vagus nerve, V-A-G-U-S, vagus nerve. The vagus nerve typically sends shut down some signals, right? It's a source that's trying to stop the heart from going and pumping too fast. The heart's going to pump by itself, which is they give you the shocker, right? So that it could just start by itself again. So the brain is telling the heart to slow down, and the heart is telling the brain to speed up. Make sense? This is the dynamic that's at play. So the brain extends everywhere in the body, just like the heart does. So the brain extends also to the heart. Where is the seat of the godly soul in the heart? The right ventricle, the part that's connected to the lungs, to the breath of life, right? And this is the part, again, that has less blood. The left ventricle is the biggest part of your heart. The right ventricle is not as big, okay? It's the smallest ventricle in your heart. It is a source of man's fervent love towards God. This is the godly soul, right? The godly soul, as it expresses itself in the right ventricle of your heart, is the source of man's fervent love toward God, which, like flaming coals, flares up in the heart of discerning men who understand and reflect with the faculty of knowledge, da'at, of their brain on the matters that arouse this love. Which love? The love of God. Which matters do you have to meditate on to acquire a love of God? And you meditate about how great God is. You meditate about how much God loves you, how much He's given you, how much how fantastic it is that He created the world, right? And so on and so forth. If you spend some time thinking about how infinite God is, you will develop a love and a fear of God. So the love and a fear are emotions that comes from the heart. However, that activity is being triggered by the brain, which is controlling the heart at that moment. Make sense? Okay. Also of the gladness of the heart, in the beauty of God and the majesty of His glory, which is aroused in the eyes of the wise man, as it says in Proverbs, I believe, that the eyes of the wise man are in his head. Let's see, I'm sorry, Ecclesiastes. King Solomon. I.e. the brain, harboring his wisdom and understanding, gaze at the glory of the king and the beauty of his greatness that are unfathomable and without end or limit, as explained elsewhere. As also the other holy affections, the midot, right? What are the midot? Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. In the heart, originate from Chabad, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, which is in the brain. And this is what we've said before again and again. This is the long, shorter way that we should be able to study Tanya here, influence how we process and understand things to develop better, more holy emotions, to be able to serve God with actual love and fear. And this is how we can understand how Deuteronomy 30:14 is actually true. It is written, however. Questions, by the way? It is written, however. One nation shall prevail over another nation. So we've given several proofs to this concept of the two souls that exist within a body. Here's another proof. What's the proof? Genesis 25:23. What's the story?
What is
Too
it?
much of a test?
Genesis 25.
25.
Sodom and Gomorrah? I don't know.
No, it's the story of Rivka Imenu, our Yiddish mama Rivka. Rivka, she had babies, right? She was pregnant at the time, and
She warring children.
right. They said the story goes like she was walking past a house of Torah study, Shem's yeshiva, Noah's son, where they were studying God's word, prophetically given at that time, and the baby would try to like come out. So she's like, "Oh, this is a very godly baby, very nice." So then she would go past a house of idol worship, of idolatry, and she'd feel like the baby's trying to come out. And she's like, "Oh, I'm carrying a schizophrenic, right? This is not good." So she got very
She
worried.
didn't know at that time it was too good.
Right? She got very worried, and she went to go inquire of God. How do you inquire of God? You go speak to his wise men, you speak to his prophets. She went to Shem. She went back to the yeshiva, to the house of Torah study, and she asked Shem, "What's going on?" And Shem, he speaks with God, whatever it is that happened, and he says, "You're carrying twins, Mazel Tov," right? And he said this famous prophecy, and of course, who are these famous babies? He said to her, "You're carrying a Yankla and you're carrying an Esav," right? And he said, "One nation shall prevail over the other nation." Okay?
And the older shall serve the
And the
younger.
older shall serve the younger. So, interesting, difficult possibly, but then from this, we know in the Peshat, this is talking about a woman carrying twins. On the deeper level, it's teaching us about what's going on inside us, right? There's a war going on. Where's the front? Where's the battleground for this war?
Heart.
Our body. Our body.
Yeah.
Main battlegrounds are the brain and the heart. Absolutely.
The small city.
The small city, the micro city, right? The body is called a small city. Where is it called that? In Ecclesiastes. Just as two kings wage war over a town, which each wishes to capture and rule, that is to say, to dominate its inhabitants according to his will, so that they obey him and all the decrees from him, so do the two souls, the divine and the vitalizing animal soul that comes from the klipa. They wage war against each other over the body and all of its limbs. So there's something important to note here. It says that they want to dominate the inhabitants of the city. Okay, they want to dominate our limbs, 248 limbs of man. According to this little king's will, so that they should obey him and all the decrees for them. So the conquering king here doesn't want to just be called king, right? He doesn't want to have to fight every day. The king wants such dominion to dominate them that his thoughts and his words and his actions are reflected in all of the different body parts, right? So he shouldn't have to fight. And this is the desire of both souls. What is the desire of the animal soul? What is the desire of the godly soul? Let's read on. It is the desire and will of the divine soul that she alone, and this is a nice place to point out that all souls are feminine, feminine gender. Neshama, right? It's a feminine word. God is the masculine one. We are the feminine one. So it's the desire and will of the divine soul, the nefesh ha'elokit, that she alone rule over the person and direct him, and that all of his limbs should obey her and surrender themselves completely to her and become a vehicle for her, as well as a robe or an instrument for her 10 faculties. Which are these 10 faculties? Chochmah, Bina, Da'at, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. And also these 3 garments mentioned above, thought, speech, and deed. All of which should pervade all of the organs of the body, and the entire body should be permeated with them alone, with this, to the exclusion of any other alien influence, chas v'sholem. And that's a natural, healthy state of being, right? That the body should be naturally subservient to the soul. If your body is doing things that your soul does not command, this is a problem, right? You got to go to a doctor for that kind of a thing. So this is a natural, good